Hello everybody. Gotta make sure this is focusing okay. You know, I'm using my daughter's old camera, which is a very expensive camera, to try to do some of these longer videos now. So tonight we're going to have a discussion about some of the techniques with herbal medicine making. Now, I could go over a lot of them in the books. Now, this one right here, the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, a home manual. This one's very good. I have been using this one quite a bit, the Modern Herbal Dispensatory. Now, the thing with making the medicine, there are so many variables that I could not really cover them all or do them all justice in my little videos. Again, I want to reference you to Jack Spirko's survivalpodcast.com, episode 1769. Now, it's a little more than an hour long, but it is packed with information. So I want you to listen to that. This is what has changed my understanding of how to prepare herbs and the different levels of potency, the considerations with how an herb dissolves in water or oil or alcohol, how heat and temperature variations when you're preparing your herbal medicines, how that is affected. So these books were very good buys, and they cover all that. Now, I want to get into how I prepare my decoctions, and this is becoming the standard for me on any of the decoctions. The first thing I do is I take the dry plant material after I've washed it, if I wash it. Depends on if it's for my own use or if it's something that I might sell or give to someone. I put it in a pan or pot, and I pour, and I'm just talking about, I just splash pure grain alcohol over it. And that is to start the process of breaking down the chemicals in the plant. That's called stripping. There's other words. The language of herbal medicine is something that you also need to learn. And then I put a lid on it and I leave it set for about an hour. Then I come back and I put water in the over the plants to the point that it is over the plant material, and quite a bit over. Now, this has been a learning experiment for me in how do I know how much water to use. Well, that's just going to be dependent upon what plant you have and how much of it you have. But I'm going to start with, you're going to want the same amount of water as you have plant matter, and then half again. So if you have a cup of plant matter, then you're going to want to have a cup and a half of water. And that's a rough variable right there. And so what I do is, in my pot, I bring it to a simmer. I turn it on and I bring it to a simmer. Now, that's no boiling. That's no bubbling. That is simply where there is steam starting to come off of the water. Then I turn it down to the lowest setting and I put the lid on it and I leave it. Now, at this point now, I have done this with any of the plants that I'm preparing the concentrates for. And I do prefer the concentrate, and if I have time I'll explain why on this video. If not, I'll make another video. But you just let it slow cook. And while I'm talking about the slow cook process, there are many herbs, and we're talking about chemical essences in the plants. That's what we're trying to extract. That's what we're trying to utilize for medicine. Well, a lot of those, heat destroys them. Now you're going to have to study which ones that happens with, and then on the other hand, heat releases the chemicals in other plants. So that is just simply something you're going to have to study in these books that I have right here. And excuse the squeak, because we know it's going to do it. Okay, so these books are some of the ones that can explain to you how to determine, or learning by what others have done, whether you should use heat or not. Now, high heat almost always will ruin chemicals. It's certainly going to make a molecular change in the chemical. That is because of how heat makes things expand and it changes. That goes back to science, and we're not going to do that tonight. This is 4th of July, and I'm just chilling with you guys after another rough day at work. So when you get ready to start preparing your plants, that's the things that you're going to have to take into consideration. And these books are going to be your guide. And I really urge you to get you some good books. This one is Modern Herbal Dispensatory, a Medicine Making Guide. I got that from Amazon. And this is the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, a home manual. Got them both from Amazon. They came like in 1 or 2 days. Those have been so helpful. So you really need those guides, because there are so many variables with so many plants. For example, okay, like lemon balm, it has a lot of volatile oils in the plant. I believe lemongrass is also the same. So what you can do is, instead of making a very strong decoction, if you wanted to make something that was a little lighter, you could simply cut those herbs up and put in cold water, screw the lid on a jar, and leave it set, and then come in the morning and drink that, and it will be a lightly flavored herbal drink that has medicinal qualities to it. So then if you were going to make some kind of concentrate, then you would want to use hot water, like for tea, and then you would put a lid on that, but you would use less plant. So in those variations, there are thousands of years of herbal medicine making, and all kinds of books that give you the recipes and the methodology for preparing these herbs. And I just strongly suggest that you get these, because I am what's called an intuitive herbal medicinal person. I don't know what terminology to use. My nephew says I'm a witch, and I told him, I said, don't you ever call me that again, young man. And I prefer to think of myself as a medicine woman, in the way that my ancestors were medicine people. Medicine women often were the elder women of the community who, through years of watching others and gaining knowledge, then they were the ones tasked with dispensing this knowledge and keeping their people within their villages and their communities healthy. So now let's move on again to the herbal medicine science. Well, now we have science to go along with what is folklore. And I strongly implore you to do the research. It is out there. If you type in any plant and then type in chemical or nutrient studies, chemical or nutrient research, it brings up a wealth of studies. Now, yes, you have to dig through it, you have to wade through it, and there is a lot of terminology that is intimidating, but you can do it. I know you can, because I'm doing it. And so once you get into those, one of the things that I have found is with sap plants that exude a sap, especially the milky sap of, let's say, the wild lettuce, the heat can be a detriment to it and can destroy the chemicals. Now, I've read that in a couple of the studies. I have, whenever I found those links, I've posted them in my community post. So, again, if you haven't subscribed to me, that's the only way you can get those community posts. And just subscribing to me, that doesn't mean you gotta watch me all the time or watch all my videos. I realize that I have a particular type of video, and my personality tends to be a particular type, and that may not be pleasing to everybody, but that is why I urge you to do your research, and that way you learn for yourself and you empower yourself. But that's why I put those links out there, so that you can do that for yourself. So when you're doing that research, you're going to find the things that explain to you about the plant. Is it high in volatile oils? What kind of sap does it have? How does the chemicals in the plant flow through the plant? How do the scientists that are analyzing the plant, how do they isolate these chemicals in the plant? So that's those things that you can learn for yourself. These studies that are done everywhere but America, Bhopal, India, in Egypt, in Syria, there's just so many places. There was one that was Russian, there was one that was Swedish. These places are doing the studies on the wild lettuce. And because of the problem that certain of these wild lettuces only exist on certain continents, such as the African wild lettuces are only in Africa, and the Asian wild lettuces are only in Asia, and likewise the European wild lettuces are only in Europe. But as people have traveled, America has some of these plants along with its own native version of the wild lettuces. So I know for a fact that some of the Pakistani people that I know have brought their herbs and their seeds with them from Pakistan. So we will be turning up those herbs in another decade or so. They will be part of our flora here in America, and they have powerful plant medicines there. So with these plants, with these wild lettuces, we can utilize the knowledge from the other countries and apply it toward the wild lettuces here in America. Now, The cereola, which is the true prickly lettuce, is all over the world. That joker's a hardy little guy. He's everywhere. And then the verosa is in some places, and there are different subspecies of it. And I've been trying to find a match for that wild lettuce that I found the other day, and I can't. But in doing so, I found a picture of Lactuca hirsuta, Hirsuta. That's a magnificent looking plant. It's actually furry all over the plant, which is why it's called hirsuta, or hair. And the leaves are fuzzy, the stalks are fuzzy, not prickly, but fuzzy. And all the way up into the little stems that have the seed on them, they're fuzzy. And it's beautiful. It has a strong burgundy stalk, and then the leaves have a dark green with burgundy undertones. It's a beautiful plant. I want to get me one of those. But that is the thing, that as these other countries are studying the plant, we can then learn from what they're studying. And as of now, in my head, like I said, I'm taking off a week, but I just didn't have anything else to do tonight. I'm tired of laying around, and I miss you guys, and I wanted to share some information with you. And I thought about this all day long. We can start exploring these scientific research studies and utilize it to try to figure out what is going on with our plants. Because as of right now, what makes the seed germinate? What temperature, what humidity level? Because as I've read from people sending me messages privately and also in my threads, people order seeds and then they don't sprout. I had that same problem. The seed that I had didn't sprout. Now, I left the ones that I left alone that fell right down on the ground. Well, they sprouted when they got darn good and ready to. So, we don't know that secret yet. I don't, anyway, and I have not found it anywhere. All of the published reports that I have found in America is, I don't know, we don't know, we haven't tested it, we haven't researched it, there's no research to prove this, blah, blah, blah. But then I go to these other countries, and they are working very hard to unleash the mysteries, the components, the chemicals, the mechanisms of this wild lettuce plant and many other wild plants, because they're seeing the importance and the positive results of plant medicine. For example, I want to mention these two real quick. The mugwort, also called sweet Annie, is being tested for cancer research. It has been found to kill colon cancer cells in vitro. There is the medical research for that. It's in other countries, not in America. The other one is teasel, dapsicus. I'm getting that wrong. Anyway, the teasel plant is found to prove healing and curing of the chronic Lyme disease. Not just a Lyme disease infection, but chronic Lyme disease. And my brother had, he actually has gallons of it in tincture form, and that was one of the ones that I was trying to sell down at the farmer's market. Well, people don't know how important that is, so now I've got to spread the word about that. Lyme disease, tick bites, and tick-borne illnesses are crippling. to many people. And they can't always be healed by antibiotics, because now these pathogens are becoming resistant to our common and chemically produced antibiotics. So where do we go? Well, it turns out we've got naturally growing antibiotics that will take care of these diseases. So as I wrap this up, I just want to stress that I can't answer all the questions about how to prepare these plants, and actually even what I'm doing with these plants myself, because I'm kind of feeling my way through. When you've lived around plants as much as I have, you do kind of have a second nature for it. And many of you out there do. I have seen that. So you look at the plant as it's cooking, the water or the oil as you're cooking it, and you see the transformation of the plant and what the fluid that you're using, what it starts changing into, and you stir and you look at it and you have a certain smell that wafts up to you, and it's just something that you go, I know it's ready. So that's what I've been doing. Now, these books now are giving me a more precise methodology to use, and I am incorporating that. So, again, get you some good books, some medicine-making, plant medicine-making books, and use those as your guide, because they have recipes that have been proven through time, that have been found in old books and old apothecary manuals, and so that's a cheat that we can utilize. Then also explore these new scientific research studies. We can now see these things on a microscopic level, test them in labs, test them out on animals, and see what their efficacy is. So as I wind this up, I just wanted to bring this to you. I'm hoping that y'all have a great 4th. I had to work today. My occupation, I do not get time off for things as silly as holidays. But that's okay, because I'm thankful that I have a good job. And all of the other people that were there with me today, we just griped and complained about it all day long. But we were glad that we had jobs and that we were around good people, that we enjoy their company. So until my next video, God bless you all, and good night.